Welcome back everyone. Today I'm going to be styling this Tigerbark Ficus. Enjoy. So it's finally time to start getting on with some of my tropical trees or indoor trees or whatever you want to call them. So yeah, I bought this one from a garden centre near to me. I keep on forgetting the name, that's why I say near to me. The one closest to me is called Long Acres, there's one further away. I'll find that name and put it in the comments or something, but I doubt many of you live around this way anyway. So yeah, I'm just going to speed up the process on this one, so yeah, otherwise it'll be a 30-minute video of me just faffing about with wire and cutting little branches and that. So just starting off here, so when I bought this tree, all the branches were really long and gangly, growing on a shelf in a garden centre. You know, it's quite a decent garden centre, but it doesn't have its own grow light or anything like that, so obviously the growth just becomes elongated. All the leaves are at the end, so I basically cut off most of the branches. Believe it or not, all these branches existed on the tree when I bought it, but there was about probably double the amount. Luckily for me, they're all quite thin, so they're all quite usable at the moment. There isn't any really thick, horrible kind of branches. There was a couple, but mostly got rid of those. And I've just done some simple branch selection when I first got this, and then repotted it. Repotted it because it was in just pure cocoa coir. In a terrible pot, to be honest. And this is actually buried, so the bottom of the root base here was actually buried in the soil. It was only once I started repotting it that I realised what the root base was like, and it's probably like Marmite, you either love it or hate it, right? I call it a bit of a snake tree. It looks like it's kind of snaking out the ground there. But it does kind of hold presence for the movement to the left because the base is kind of like anchoring down the right. Just hope I can work on some Nabari with that. And some aerial roots as well. But yeah, so cut back most of the branches when I first bought it to just 2 leaves. And then since I've repotted it, it's been really slow to get going again. And then it started to get going again about a month ago. And this was all the growth it was put on in that month. So again, I'm just cutting back to, I think I left about four leaves on it this time, so I'm cutting back to them. Or I'm picking just like the healthiest kind of growth if it's already bifurcated, so split into 2 kind of branches. I'm just picking the strongest branch. And I'm just going to come in and clean up some of these cuts that I made earlier in the year. This is just a way of healing it quicker. Trying to make it less ugly on the trunk, because this is the front. So this cut unfortunately is right in the front of the tree. So I'm just going to take a little kind of carving blade to the edge of that and just remove some of the bark and just show some of the green. And then that'll start healing over again properly. It is already healing, but this just kind of promotes it to heal even quicker. And then just this rather large cut that's on the back here. Luckily this one actually has a branch growing out of it. So usually with kind of cuts like this, when you have a branch growing from either on top or around the wound site, you'll find that it closes quicker because the amount of sap that's flowing through to that branch. That'll also help heal that part of the tree. So this one has actually got a major cut on the top, so I'm guessing this was kind of field grown at one point, or you know, for however many years they're all grown. They're growing in the millions, these things, so. And then they've just cut the top off, but where they've cut it, I don't know what they've used, but the cut isn't healing at all, basically. The heartwood's kind of showing on the top, it looks a bit like deadwood, so. My idea is, and you'll see it later on in the video, that I'm going to create a new leader. And then hopefully get some branching off of that. Let that thicken over time, and that leader is actually above that wound site, so I'm going to eventually try and trim down that wound site even more on the top. And hopefully it'll close over eventually, but if not, it's kind of on the back of the tree anyway, so. You know, this kind of material, I think this cost me £20. For the actual trunk thickness it is, and here in the UK, That's not a bad price to pay for one, especially with this much movement as well. It's quite a nice specimen to start off with for the price. So obviously using the 2-branch method here. I think I'm using 1.5mm wire. I don't know what gauge that is. I know that in America you like to use the word gauge. I've forgotten which millimeter it is. But yeah, just wrapping that around. I usually use thinner wire, but the problem is it doesn't hold over time, and you can't always get the exact bend you want in a branch. Now don't get me wrong, this isn't as final styling, and you'll see by the end of this it looks nothing like an actual bonsai, what I'd want it to look like, right? But I'm trying to just set up a bit of movement into the branches just to get it on its way, rather than them all just being, you know, elongated straight branches. And it also helps separate them out, making sure that sunlight's getting to all of these branches. And usually with ficus, wherever sunlight hits, it will start growing leaves there. So I'm hoping for back budding on this as well. I'm going to bring the foliage in a bit tighter, and then through ramification, smaller and smaller leaves, and then it should actually look a bit more in scale. So the main style on this one is kind of that. It's up at the shoulder of the branch and then kind of falling down after that. So, and generally whatever style you start with on the bottom few branches, usually it'd be like a primary branch that you style first, and then you have to style the rest of the tree based around how you're doing that one. Obviously it would be quite odd in nature to find an old tree that all the branches are growing in different ways, if you know what I'm saying. So say if one comes down from the shoulder, down and out, and then the rest are all up and out, that'd be very odd to see. Obviously there is some asymmetry to it, and that's what kind of makes it more natural in a way, is that it isn't perfect. But generally speaking, older trees, the branches will all follow the same kind of suit and the same kind of pattern. So luckily ficus very bendy, especially when the branches are kind of this young. You can do quite a lot to them. You have to make sure that they've hardened off though. Don't try and do this brand new growth, because you just end up snapping it off. They're very brittle when they're in their first year of growth, and then once they've hardened off or gone brown, that's how I see hardening off anyway, then you can kind of manipulate them a little bit more. And obviously for the moment the leaves will obviously look very strange because they're used to growing straight up, and now they're kind of poking out to the side. So it might take a little while to recover from this because of the fact it can't photosynthesize properly. But eventually them leaves either die off and it grows new ones in its place facing the right direction, i.e. up to the sun. Leaves are just like solar panels basically. That's, you know, they grow best when they're facing the sun and whichever direction that's coming from. So obviously with indoor trees you have to be careful where your light source is. If you put them on a windowsill, let's say, and the sun obviously only comes in from one direction, being the window, the back of that tree will be quite bare, and what can actually happen is the leaves end up just kind of facing the window. It looks quite strange, but that's why my tropicals every late spring, I suppose, early summer, so when the weather starts warming up, I'll put them outside anyway so they can get full sunlight. The only ones I ever keep indoors are ones that I've worked on heavily that year, just because of where I live there's a lot of rain and it can, you know, for species that like it drier. Not too happy out there. So just quickly, my indoor recording setup still isn't great. I'm trying to figure out light source and everything else, and you know, I've never really done any indoor filming or any filming at all, kind of really, until I started doing this bonsai journey. So outdoors is quite easy. Natural light looks pretty good anyway. Indoor light, a bit different. So bear with me on that one, and I'll figure it out. So this isn't my only ficus, I've got another one which is like a ginseng microcarpa kind of mix, which I got from actually a colleague at work. And that one's doing great. That one's, I mean, I've been working on it for about 3 years now, but I'm trying to hide the ginseng roots on that one. So that'll probably be in one of the upcoming videos where I, you know, trim that down a little bit because some of the branches are getting a bit out of control. But so far, it's done a really good job of ramifying and shrinking leaf size. It's the one that you might have seen if you watched my indoor tree collection video, where I had a Pepsi bottle around it. That's really because I'm trying to get aerial roots off of the microcarpa parts and then kind of engulf the ginseng roots. I'm not really happy with the ginseng roots. Obviously, they just look like potatoes, like sweet potatoes. So yeah, if I can get aerial roots to grow over that, then it will hide that fact, and then I can kind of keep it as it is. It's either that or I cut the top microcarpa part off the tree and use it as a cut-in and start again from there. But obviously that's, you know, you're talking about 5 years worth of growth on the roots there, so I'm trying everything I can before I make that decision. But yeah, that's going to be in an upcoming video, which would be good. I've got a couple more repottings to do for the tropical trees indoors. I won't bore you with the seedling ones, you know, well, seedlings, cuttings. I won't bore you with the cutting ones. The cuttings are just kind of stick in the pot, right? You know, you can find videos everywhere on how to take cuttings of jade and ficus and everything else like that, so I'm not just going to repeat what everyone else is doing, but... So we're coming to the end of this one, so that is the leader that I'm playing around with there, so that's going to be the new leader there. I'm trying to make sure it doesn't match the trunk shape directly, because that kind of shape that it's got going on, which is a bit like an S, I suppose. If you carry that kind of on, it just doesn't look natural. So the top of this tree is going to change compared to that part of the trunk, but essentially you can see what I've done here. So I've wired out all these branches. Now, I'm not going to keep all of these branches, I'd say, in the future. But right now, where the tree's still quite weak and it is still growing, I don't want to do too much work at once, so leaving them branches on. I'll kind of let the tree select which it wants to select. Obviously, it's going to try and push the growth up the top as much as possible, but we'll see what happens with the lower down branches. So and then we come to the glamour shot finale. So this is kind of how the branches are looking on the bottom of the tree. As I say, you know, there's no tapery, there's no actual kind of shape to it at all. There's no, you know, that kind of triangle shape that you're going for with bonsai. But that leader, I'm hoping will branch off, and then I can select some more branches out of that and then make an apex out of that. It's probably going to be the height of the tree eventually, maybe a little bit taller than this just because of the trunk size. The trunk will grow over time, but now it's in a bonsai pot, it's going to be absolutely years before it grows properly, so we'll see how that goes. We'll revisit this tree around summertime. It should push out again, and then give it another trim back. If you enjoyed today's content, please make sure to subscribe, like, and hit that bell notification. I'll see you soon.